Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is March 9th, 2021. For all those people listening to this show 100 years from now and going, wow, this audience really knew stuff that the population didn't. You're right. And here's why. Excuse me. I just took some supplements. I shouldn't do that right before the show. We have a guest coming on today who is an enlightened physician. And we're seeing more and more enlightened physicians out there, more critical thinkers. It's almost like a renaissance in medicine today. We're very fortunate to be part of it. We're going to be talking to Dr. Kian Vu about his new book. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And his journey, which many of you will be fascinated by. Before we do that, we always have to thank our title sponsor, Legendary Foods. Let me drink some water to stop this. Legendary Foods is our title sponsor. They make a generous contribution to this show every single month. And they make the best snacks if you are someone who wants to stop a lot of sugar from coming into your body. Their latest product, the Tasty Pastry, originally was designed to be a replacement for the Pop-Tart, but it's become so much more now. The new flakier crust that's experienced by the cake style has taken the country by storm. People in other countries want them too, but they're just not ready to start shipping them yet. Legendary Foods' new red velvet tasty pastry is unbelievable. 20 grams of high quality, high leucine protein, less than 1 gram of sugar, 5 net carbs. You can go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary to learn more. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. If you're too cheap to buy them, listen during the commercial break for the secret word. When you hear the secret word, email it to onair@superhumanradio.net and you're entered to win. We are actually giving away a couple boxes a day now. So your odds. Hear me.
Can't hear you. Mic check. Yeah, I know you can hear me. I'm still getting. I'm not able to hear you very well, Carl. Can't hear you very well, Carl.
How about now?
I can hear you now.
Yay!
Yay!
Technology is a wonderful thing when it cooperates. Welcome to the show, Dr. Vu.
Thank you so much. I am pumped. I love the I love the music you have going on while we're in the lobby. It really pumps you up for a show like this.
A lot of people say that. It's funny. It does that to me too when I first start to hear it. Okay, so first of all, your interview today is being brought to us by an old dear friend and sponsor of mine, Live On Labs. So we need to say that first of all, because Cindy Nachman and Les Nachman, I consider them personal friends, and they made it possible for me to have you on the show because you're one of the most sought after anti-aging physicians today, thanks to your many TED Talks, and you're really out there on the cutting edge. Let's talk about your beginning. How long have you been a physician, first of all?
I've been a physician for over 16 years now. So I was trained in a specialty called interventional radiology. So for those people who don't know what that is, radiology is medical imaging. So ultrasounds, CT scans, x-rays, and diagnostic radiologists would take a look at the imaging and then diagnose what's going on inside the body once we're able to see what's inside the body. An interventional radiologist is a minimally invasive surgeon that uses radiology technology to do minimally invasive procedures. So as a physician, I was basically doing these minimally invasive surgeries on people with end-stage chronic disease, such as diabetes, hypertension, cancer. I basically opened up blood vessels for people who've closed their blood vessels through years of diabetes. I've treated cancers by putting in electrodes to burn them or freeze them. So I've really got a chance to really know what chronic disease is. But unfortunately, I wasn't really enlightened until I started getting chronic disease myself.
So what disease did you get? You fell prey to type 2 diabetes, right?
Exactly. About 5 years ago, I thought I lived the ideal life. I bought my dream house. I bought a fancy car. I was going around the world talking about interventional radiology and all the high-tech stuff that modern medicine has to offer. But underneath the white coat, I was overweight, I was diabetic, I was hypertensive, and I was on prescription medications. And I was really starting at the early stages of diseases of the ones that I was treating. And I told myself, there's got to be a better way. And so the story,
I want to get a little deeper into this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you were overweight, but I don't want people to hear that and think, well, I'm not overweight, I don't have to worry about this, because I know a lot of people who are of normal weight. When we talk about type 2 diabetes, we don't really talk enough about insulin and the role of insulin to damage the body.
Yeah.
And we talk about glucose, but the reality is it's the insulin that causes senescent cells to become senescent, number one.
Yes.
Number two, it's the insulin that damages the blood vessels that feed the nerves that lead to neuropathies. So just because you're listening to this show and you go, well, I'm not overweight, unfortunately, the medical orthodoxy has not caught up yet. We check blood sugar, but not insulin. That's a huge mistake. Speak about that. Shouldn't we be looking at insulin, how much insulin someone's producing to control their blood?
That's exactly right, Carl. I mean, insulin is insulin, and there's a lot of additional lab tests that you can do earlier on to catch people with prediabetes. If you're just looking at blood sugars, if you're just looking at hemoglobin A1C, your hemoglobin A1C isn't going to bump up until you've had this condition now for a while. Unfortunately, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, my hemoglobin A1C was already at 7. The good news is, and we'll get into this a little bit later, was I was able to reverse all of that in a matter of 6 months. So that's the great news. The thing is, people should find out a little bit earlier. And what are some of the tests people should be doing? We're looking at fasting insulin instead. We want that level less than 10, and people that might have like regular to slightly above, fasting glucose levels. Well, what are your insulin levels? Because if they are 15, if they're 20 or 30, then you're really moving in that direction. Then there are also additional tests like a pro-insulin that you can do. You could do C-peptide, and then also adiponectin is another lab test.
So sticking with insulin for a second longer, I have to ask you, were you a big coffee drinker?
I was a huge coffee drinker, but what I added to my coffee, and I still drink coffee today. I don't drink it as much, but the problem with my coffee drinking was I added 6 pumps of International Delight to each one of those coffees, in addition to a bunch of Monster energy drinks to get me through the day. I was this doctor that was working 80 to 100 hour weeks and just, in constant stress, it was also on call, had to come in to treat emergency cases and whatnot. And that just wrecked my health.
So I have to say, and my audience knows that I've suspected I had an autoimmune disorder, and I actually thought it was multiple sclerosis, but it's not MS at all, because the neuropathy in my hands and my lower legs is bilateral, and rarely is multiple sclerosis bilateral. It turns out that what I am now, after some lab work, is putting out way too much insulin. And I discovered that my excessive abuse of caffeine is actually at the root of why I am having the problems I'm having. And my audience knows I've given up caffeine so many times. It really is like a drug to me. I give it up, and then I go, oh, 1 cup, and then 2 cups. And the next thing I know, I'm using pre-workouts 2 or 3 a day, and just the exact scenario that you just spoke about. I just wanted to mention this because there's a lot of people out there who live and on high caffeine levels day in and day out. This could be leading to insulin resistance. Caffeine actually not only makes the receptor less sensitive to insulin, but it also does a couple other metabolic tricks that cause you to become insulin resistant faster. I just want to put that out there for people out there who love caffeine like me. That's it.
Yeah, I definitely think that people react to caffeine differently, just like people react to different types of foods differently. And certainly if you do have symptoms, take a look in the inventory of the, some of the suspects that are out there. And I think it's very important to work with a functional or integrative doc to be able to look through your lifestyle, what you're putting in your body, what you're exposing to your body. And if you do have symptoms, see if one of those things could be the culprit.
So now let's talk about you. So you had type 2 diabetes. You reversed it in 6 months. You have to feel like you've looked behind the curtain and you found that Oz is not who we think he is. Like, wait a minute, why are we treating people with metformin lifelong? Why aren't we just curing them of their type 2 diabetes, right? You had to have that moment.
Yeah, I had that aha moment. Once I reversed it in a matter of 6 months, and I at that point I said, this message needs to get out there because we really have a great ability to heal ourselves. It's just unfortunately with our modern day lifestyles, people forget how humans are supposed to live, how they should be sleeping, how they should be eating, how they should be approaching the world. And unfortunately, we've forgotten that. But my gift is that I've actually, I look back and I look at diabetes and said, oh my God, that was something that was terrible that had happened to me. But I look back and I take the stance, I take this new stance. I tell myself now that I actually chose my diabetes. I chose that because of my choices and because of my lifestyle. And why do I say that? Because at that point, you can be empowered. If you can choose your disease and potentially you can choose not to have your disease and you can take new choices, new actions that can reverse the situation, which is what I did for myself.
It's funny you say that because years and years ago, I started to call type 2 diabetes acquired diabetes because you have to give it to yourself. Yeah. And I pissed off a lot of people. I got emails back then. Well, you don't know genetics. And when people tell me about genetics, I just point to any twin study. Look at the BRCA gene twin study. Both of them have the BRCA gene. Yeah. One twin gets breast cancer, one doesn't. There's more to it we need to understand. So genetics, in my humble opinion, is a cop-out for many people because you're doing something. You may have the propensity to develop type 2 diabetes. And I like to talk about this for a second. But you have to do those things to trigger those mechanisms to give it to you. If you look at more primitive cultures, you find that they tend to be able to become insulin resistant faster. Why? Because they are so metabolically flexible. They've been designed through evolutionary pressures to function at higher levels with less. When you drop them into the United States of America, where they're eating quarter pounders and it's 12 o'clock at night, I'm going to watch Jimmy Kimmel, let me get something. They become insulin resistant overnight. It's because their bodies are actually superior. Their bodies are designed to be more flexible, to be able to go long periods of time without food. What do you think about that?
No, that's a great point. And it's a point on epigenetics, because if we look back at areas where there was huge famine in the world, the people outside of the famine, the next generation had an increased propensity for diabetes and for getting chronic disease. The reason for that is that, you've actually set your genes up in such a way to be able to handle these stressors of not having an abundant amount of food. And all of a sudden you give this food out to them. Their body can't handle it in that way, and they start getting diabetes. So great point.
So we are endowed with, for lack of better terms, AI, artificial intelligence. And what I mean by that is, if the environment that the mother and father is this way, the germline will be encoded to produce a baby that will be able to thrive in that environment.
Yes.
So if exactly like you said, when you look at populations who didn't have a lot, their babies were built to survive on not a lot. And then you drop them into a Western society where they're eating all the time, and boom. So it's really fascinating. And I don't think medicine pays enough attention to evolution at all. I don't think that. Did they give you any classes on evolution when you were in med school?
Not a heck of a lot. And really, eventually, later on in the conversation, I'm sure we'll talk about epigenetics, but what you have talked about just now is something called transgenerational epigenetics. That's right. when your parents are going through something and they've changed their genes in such a way, they've changed their gene expression in such a way to adapt to that environment, but they pass that environment on to their offspring. And it's up to the offspring to actually change some of those things, to change their genes back to something that is favorable for them. There's an example of this. If they looked at mice, so they looked at these mice and then they exposed them to the smell of cherries, and then they shocked them. They shocked these male mice, right? Pretty soon, what happens is these male mice, even without the smell of cherries, without the shock, with the smell of cherries, they start to quiver in fear. Well, guess what? When these male mice had offspring, these babies that was never exposed to the shock, was then exposed to the smell of cherries, they start to quiver in fear as well.
Interesting.
So that's really exciting about epigenetics, and then transgenerational epigenetics. But we have to be conscious of these things, because we can pass on certain traits to our children, kind of based on how we think and feel. And that's a big part of my program too, is really understanding how our thoughts, our mindset, our emotions are actually affecting our health.
So let's talk about your book, Thrive State.
Yeah.
You talk about bioenergetics. Explain what you mean by bioenergetics.
Yeah, bioenergetics is really the study of, the transfer of flow of energy within a biological organism. So it's really the study of the transference of energy. So we are all energetic beings, and every form of energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just transferred to a different form of energy, right? Now, when we start talking about performance, longevity, when we start to talk about all these things, it's really, we want our cells to be at its optimum. When our cells are optimally functioning, what I call the thrive state, then we get our telomeres longer, then we get longevity, then we get basically all our biological functions happen. However, if our cells are actually not given the right energetic cues, well, then they'll hunker down and proceed, and be besieged. They'll think that they are in stress. And in those modes, there's an increase in inflammation, there's a decrease in immunity that puts you prone to chronic disease. And unfortunately, here in America, dealing with COVID-19, those are also the same patients that have adverse effects because they've got a low bioenergetic state. So here's the cool thing though. What controls whether or not our cells are in this optimal state, the thrive state, or a stress state? Well, that's the energy or the epigenetics we give to our cells. And the good news is this: over 90% or 95% maybe of how our genes are expressed are actually controlled by the things that we feed ourselves. The things we could actually control the environment of our cells by actually being conscious in 7 areas. They are sleep, nutrition, movement, stress and emotional mastery, our relationships, our thoughts and mindset, and purpose. If we could master those 7 things, we're giving ourselves the energy to turn on the good genes, turn off the bad genes, so that we could live in optimal health, longevity, and peak performance.
Why do you think, at least here in America, we pay so little attention to managing stress?
Well, it's because, we are a go, go, go type of society. And unfortunately, we are always taught growing up that there are things outside of us that are going to make us happy. So, the Dalai Lama had, this quote that he was quoted for when he was asked what he found most interesting about humanity. And he said, man, because he would sacrifice his health in order to make money and then sacrifice his money to recuperate his health. And I was a prime example of that. I'm going to go back and tell you a little bit of my origin story. I was born in Vietnam a couple years after the Vietnam War. My parents took me when I was only a few months old, and we escaped on a refugee boat. So I was on a refugee boat for 8 months, being, in this boat crammed with 2,000 other refugees. I was the only baby to survive. In fact, I had dysentery and almost died. I spent another 3 months in a Philippine refugee camp, and then we were sponsored to America by a Catholic church. And one would think, hey, a kid who has survived dysentery has come to America, must, live life with a bunch of gratitude and feel great about his life. Well, unfortunately, I grew up as a poor Asian immigrant kid, and I was bused to a more affluent area, and I was constantly being teased. And I constantly felt this feeling of I'm not enough. I remember my heroes like Tony Robbins at the time, or Robin Williams or Mick Jagger, these people in the media that had a strong voice, and nobody looked like me. And I carried that feeling of not being enough, that I needed these outside things to make me feel worthy. That actually gave a lot of stress to my life. And so many men and women feel like, hey, in order for me to feel like a man or a human, I need to achieve so much things that are outside of me, whether it be a successful business, whether it be a bank account with X amount of zeros behind it, all these external things. And as kids, I just had a new daughter. She's beautiful. And I look at my nieces and nephews. They are in a state of joy where they're just being themselves. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, over time, you might learn through your parents, through society, through the world telling you that maybe the things that you thought made you happy, no, you got to do your homework, not this other type of thing. And you pick up all these things, these new ways of living, which are, hey, work hard, you could sleep when you're dead, all these new belief systems that make you not be who you're meant to be as a human being. And unfortunately, when you do that, that drives a lot of stress. And that stress is going to additionally drive a lot of negative behavior. And they'll keep going on that cycle. That's how I got chronic disease. And when I started to awaken from that, that's how that chronic disease started to leave me in a matter of 6 months.
Interesting. So, not that I want to pick on caffeine again, but so if someone goes for a stress test, right, they put them on a treadmill, they check their heart rate. But when someone isn't capable of doing a treadmill test, they inject them with catecholamine, I think it is. So some sort of basically a stimulant.
Yeah, dobutamine, actually. It actually increases your heart rate. Yeah. It's called the dobutamine stress test. Okay.
So how is caffeine doing anything different? Isn't caffeine just liquid stress? Aren't we just, we go, I think so much clearer until it wears off. But isn't caffeine basically liquid stress? We're just pouring it in our bodies from the morning to the evening and then taking something to go to sleep and doing it again the next day?
Yeah, certainly caffeine is a stimulant. Some people will use it as a nootropic, and people respond to it very, very differently. I don't want to villainize it, certainly, but I got to say that when I was diabetic, I had lots of coffee with lots of sugar and then lots of energy drinks that all had a lot of caffeine. I enjoy 1 or 2 cups in the morning, and I'm doing great right now. Right. And so I would just like to say, listen to your body, be very intuitive. And if you're having symptoms, and again, if you find yourself, listing a few culprits, because a lot of people will villainize certain things, but you have to listen to your own body. There's not going to be the same diet that's going to be right for everybody. There's not going to be the same life routine. You have to be very intuitive. Listen to your body. Your body knows what's best.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to talk about caffeine anymore. It's just become my well. We did a show years and years ago, and I'm going to have the author back on, called Caffeine Nation. And she kind of, aesthetic standpoint, it's not that I don't clear it fast enough or any of that. I just think that I've abused caffeine. I'm a product.
Yep.
I'm a product of this. I have abused everything that I could get my hands on, and caffeine. I don't want to keep beleaguering that. What I want to do is I want to promote your book real quick.
Great.
The book is called Thrive State, and you can go to thrivestatebook.com to learn more. It launched April 6th. How's the response so far on the book?
Well, we are actually launching April 6th, so that's great. We do have the Kindle version that just came out for a few, for a few select in crowd, but it's still out there now. So if people want to grab the Kindle version, you could jump to thrivestatebook.com, get the Kindle version right now.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why I feel like April is already here. It's not. I'm rushing my time on the planet. We're going to take one quick commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. Are you ready to change the way you age? Of course you are. That's why you're here. Juvicel is a new first-of-its-kind dietary supplement that includes 10 key research-backed ingredients shown in studies to support lifespan. Things like resveratrol, fisetin, quercetin, pterostilbene, sulforaphane, turmeric, all in a single dose. You may have some of these ingredients already, but Juvicel is the first to combine them all into a single product to support your lifespan. It's vegan, non-GMO, and sustainable. Live better longer with Juvicel. Go to shrnetwork.biz/live better. Use code SHR and save 20% off today. TaylorMade Health is focused on making sure you're able to perform and look your best. They are a leader in game-changing supplements and cosmetic products. Whether you want to increase strength, expedite recovery, facilitate soft tissue repair, or reduce deep wrinkles, TaylorMade Health has you covered. TaylorMade Health is also the home to Dr. Seed's products such as BPC, BPC Plus, and the Chill Pill. All of my listeners can now get 20% off their first order with code TRY20. That's TRY20. This code can even be used on subscription orders. Visit shrnetwork.biz/try20 today and use code TRY20 for 20% off your first order. Thrive. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
We'll be right back with Dr. Vu. I just want to give a little shout out to one of our sponsors today, and that is Pure Nootropics. Pure Nootropics works very hard to produce some of the best supplements at not so fancy prices. And they've been a sponsor now since the last quarter of last year. And they continue to bring this audience lots of great products that we ask for. You don't have to pay for fancy. You can get the best for less. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/pure, you can choose from a variety of different amazing nootropic products. We have special offers. If you go there, you can get DHM, the hangover drug supplement. Can't call it a drug. Use the code SHR30 to save 30% off. Or the Superhuman Stack, which is a nootropic stack. Use the code SHR to save 25% off. The site-wide code is 10% off if you use SHR10. And, of course, they brought us our ALA after the show we did not too long ago, showing that our ALA reduces visceral fat, especially in people who are already insulin resistant. And we're doing some more shows on our ALA very shortly. It's a very, very interesting compound that has really been forgotten and needs to be reinvestigated. If you go there, you can save 30% off their our ALA product, and it's stabilized. It's SHR30 for that. So show them some love. They've been around for a long time. They continue to support the show. And now back to Dr. Vu. Okay. Open your mic. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Good. No goblins in the work. That's funny. So you talked earlier about purpose.
Yeah.
Is it my imagination, or do people die shortly after retirement?
There are some people that when they lose, when they lose a sense of belonging to something, you know, they change their health state, which is why so many people, when they lose their partners, they'll die shortly thereafter. Some people, again, when they come out of retirement, they don't have that sense of living anymore. They will also maybe bring up some additional health problems that they had. So that is a really, really important point. Purpose is something that when they studied it, they noticed that for the American, if those people with a deep sense of purpose live 7 years longer. People with a sense of purpose actually have a lower risk of cardiovascular events such as heart attack or stroke. Also, if you happen to be hospitalized, if you have a deep sense of purpose, you spend fewer days in the hospital. So having that deep sense of purpose and being connected to something greater than yourself actually has molecular changes in your body that makes you live longer.
Is there any evidence that, well, obviously there is. You told the story about the rodent that was shocked when they smelled cherry.
Yeah.
So obviously that's an emotion, right?
Yeah.
Fear, right? So fear, emotions do affect us epigenetically then.
100%. Emotions are basically how our body talks to ourselves. And what we've studied is this. We know that emotions like anger, hate, resentment, all those negative emotions actually drive something in our DNA called the conserved transcription response to adversity, or CTRA. And when those emotions are on, you're almost kind of like you're either running away from a saber-toothed tiger or you're falling from a 20-story building. It's the same type of things that happen. And what happens in those cases is when that CTRA gene set is on, it actually raises inflammatory markers such as IL-1, IL-6, IL-12, and TNF-alpha. And it also lowers your immune system. It's actually shown to decrease natural killer cell activity. Here's the flip side of that. There are emotions like love, like connection, like gratitude, which is the highest vibrational emotion. Those emotions are actually anti-aging and will actually shut down that CTRA transcriptional response. And it'll do the exact opposite of what those other lower vibrational emotions will do.
Has modern medicine done a good job at making the average person think that's nonsense? You know what I mean? Like, look, I remember when doctors didn't think that diet played any role in disease. And there's still a lot of doctors that think that. And now there's a lot more enlightened doctors that are like, wow, the ketogenic diet suppresses seizures and has been linked to shrinking brain tumors. Wow. So we have a lot of doctors that are going, well, maybe diet plays a role. But I don't think a lot of doctors really think that emotional stability and as you talk about feeling grateful, feeling love, they think it's foo-foo. Oh yeah, has modern medicine missed an opportunity to help their patients?
Well, we have really an awakening now. I would probably say 20, 25 years ago, people always knew there was a mind-body connection. But when you started to say, okay, gratitude actually leads to decreased stress levels and things like that, we didn't have that data yet back in the day. But now, now there is digital media, and our ability to be able to speak has rapidly transformed, disseminating information, and information is getting out there a lot sooner. And our benchtop and our research is also improving. So people are starting to look at, what does meditation do to your telomeres and these anti-inflammatory markers? And then also, what do some of these other emotions do? And now we see tons and tons of studies where laughter could actually improve insulin sensitivity, right? We could also show that, power poses and just getting in your physical body and feeling a certain way is going to increase testosterone levels and lower cortisol levels. So now we're getting more and more data, and our ability to communicate that data is so much greater that I think people are starting to awaken to the power of our emotions and our thoughts, and having that sense of purpose is to our physical bodies and health.
So one of the mechanisms that I believe that this is facilitated through is a hormone called oxytocin, which has
Yeah.
been very, very misunderstood. In fact, I've done a series of shows over the past decade that have linked everything to faster muscle healing and protein synthetic response, to changing the diversity of your gut flora,
Yes.
to now we know that it's oxytocin that increases bone mineralization in postmenopausal women and not estradiol, and certainly not these I can't even think of the names right now, but some of these drugs that they give women. But
Bisphosphonates.
Bisphosphonates, thank you.
Yeah.
And so many more. And so when I talk about oxytocin, I hearken back to evolution.
Yes.
I say before Maslow, before any of these edicts, there was one job: perpetuation of the species. And before religious connotations and morality kind of a construct that, oh, you should just stay with one partner. The job was to create and procreate and improve the trajectory of the species. So that means that sex is job one. It's the only important job that we have as a species on the planet. And oxytocin is the reward hormone, because the more sex you have, the more oxytocin you produce. And I have actually been using injectable oxytocin in very high doses now for the past few years. I found a study that shows, so I become fascinated with neonatal genes. I keep saying, how do we turn on neonatal genes so the body can repair stuff, right? We already have stem cells. How do you pull out the original blueprint and go, okay, this is how we build that wall over there? And oxytocin keeps coming back as one of those triggers. Talk about neonatal genes and things that could activate them and what that means for medicine maybe 100 years from now.
You bring a great point. I mean, oxytocin is one of these things that, when people study oxytocin, they almost kind of study how almost the universe wants, humans and other animals to behave, because it's leading you to something. And all the biological effects that you mentioned are spot on. Great for our gut, great it's great for our hormone balancing, and it actually lowers cortisol levels and lowers our blood pressure for people who have high blood pressure. So great hormone. Now, when does it get bumped up? Well, it gets bumped up through connection, right? So actually, when you're on the phone with somebody, your oxytocin levels will go up. It'll go up even higher if we could actually see each other, all right, and we communicate. That goes up. If we're actually there holding each other, oxytocin then goes up even further, right? And then certainly when we're having sex. So this is such a great hormone, for tons of health benefits. And the fact that it increases as we increase our human connection tells us that we are really primed as human species to be able to help each other. Guess what? Also, those people where they study levels of purpose, do you feel like you are connected to something greater, have a bigger sense of purpose? Those people tested with higher levels of oxytocin in their bodies as well. So pretty interesting stuff, huh?
And it is, when you put it into the perspective of, we are rewarded for doing things that are beneficial to humanity.
Yes. It
really is. I started calling it the human reward hormone. And as far as the blood pressure goes, I have horrible white coat syndrome. I check my blood pressure at home. It's always very, very good. But whenever I go to the Red Cross to donate blood, they put that cup on and I can feel my heart start. So now I take 60 units of oxytocin a half hour before when I get in the car to drive over there. And by the time I get there, I have model blood pressure because I'm just so relaxed. I just feel so good. So it's really fascinating.
Or you can hug a baby right before you go.
Yeah, but if I hug some stranger's baby, I'll get put in jail. But no, neonatal genes are really fascinating to me. There's a lot of new research that's finding proteins that turn on neonatal genes to repair cardiac muscle, for instance. Are you is any of that stuff in your windshield right now? Are you looking at things that actually enhance neonatal genes to take over and fix stuff?
Not so much neonatal genes. However, I do look, I do use in my practice, perinatal products that has growth factors that are in high concentration that, that actually a baby needs as they're developing to actually help repair and help speed the process of healing and growth. So I'm aware of those, but not so much those neonatal genes that you talk about.
A study was just published that we're going to have the author on. They've discovered a protein that flips on neonatal genes in of all things, the pancreas. Mm-hmm. And they believe that they can actually reverse type 1 diabetes by getting these islet cells to start to produce insulin again. Yeah. It's fascinating stuff out there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more. Stay tuned. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. The power of light can be truly life-changing and an important element for every superhuman. Because of this, I want you to experience the power of award-winning Saluma light therapy. Saluma utilizes NASA research technology to improve health at the cellular level and is cleared by the FDA to effectively treat a variety of pain, muscle and joint conditions, as well as facial wrinkles and acne. Our entire team here at Superhuman Radio uses it. Its innovative shape-taking design allows for easy placement anywhere on the body. Choose from 13 different models. For an exclusive listener discount, go to shrnetwork.biz/Saluma. That's CELLUMA. And use code SHR10 to save 10% off of one of these award-winning devices.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Welcome back. So I've been doing a lot more shows recently, and I plan on continuing. And I consider them remedial shows because this audience is so far ahead. But every day we have new people finding the show. And the reason I think that addressing type 2 diabetes or acquired diabetes is so important is because when we have health statistics, well, the number one cause of death in the United States is heart disease. Number 3 is cancer. And when they list all these different things, they're disingenuous because the number one cause of heart disease is insulin resistance. The number one cause of cancer today, it's always people suffering from type 2 diabetes that develop neurological, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer. So I really feel like the modern medicine is not being honest with people. And the idea that you're going to just take this glimepiride for the rest of your life, or maybe eventually we'll put you on Victoza and that doesn't work, we'll start put you on insulin for the rest of your life for something that's secretly, hey, did you know that you could cure your diabetes in 6 months and be gone? Like, I don't think people believe it. I don't know if maybe they don't want to be bothered with it, but I've mounted a mission to carry this very simple truth forward. And that is, you don't have to be on drugs for the rest of your life because you have type 2 diabetes. You can change the way you eat. You can change the way you sleep. You can change your level of activity, and you could be rid, and you will live longer.
That is such a great point. And here's the thing. When you read my book, you understand something called the bioenergetic state. So when I look at all these chronic diseases, they're all just sort of symptoms going on in different parts of the body. So, when our cells are optimally functioning, We notice great performance. We also live longer. All those great benefits, improved immune system, everything's running fine. When a cell is suboptimally functioning, so just imagine like your lung cell not optimally functioning. Well, it's not going to extract enough oxygen, and then it's not going to then deliver it to the rest of the body. Guess what? The rest of the body now doesn't have enough oxygen, so that each one of those cells now lacks some of that nutrient. Okay, then it's going to function less. So this is the cascading effects of how as cells start to function suboptimally, it will lead to an energetic state where you'll start to lose function in different systems. When that happens, what happens if you have a dysfunction in your endocrine system? That's diabetes. When you have a dysfunction in your immune system, that's when you're susceptible to COVID. That's when you have cancer. That's when you have autoimmune disease. When you have a dysfunction in your cardiovascular system, that then gives you, things like atherosclerosis, stroke, dysfunction in your neurological symptoms. That's dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So I look at it as chronic low elevations in what I call your bioenergetic state starts to then tell your cells, we are in a stress state, we are in danger, let's increase inflammation, to decrease immunity, not function at our best. So that's why I think all these things are related. And that's why you'll find that people with cancer, people with, things that are not diabetes, people like cancer with heart disease also have that link in with insulin resistance and diabetes as well.
So I know that you're familiar with Live On Labs, correct?
Yes, I love them.
I love them too. And I've been using their R-alpha lipoic acid. You can't see it because the green screen is, they have a liposomal R-ALA. Do you use that with any of your patients?
Yeah, I think R-ALA is great. It's one of these things that people have forgotten. It's a great super antioxidant. It is, if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, it actually improves glucose metabolism. It's also great for neurons. And I really love the liposomal encapsulation. They did a lot of studies, particularly with vitamin C, that just demonstrates how much better absorbed these nutrients are when you have a liposomal encapsulation. Just to let people know, if you take, your vitamin C in an oral form, a lot of that's going to get degraded into the gut. However, if you package it into a micelle or with liposomes, which is really comprised of the same thing our cell membranes are, they'll be protected against digestion. They'll be uptaken into the intestine a little bit better, and then they'll also be delivered inside the cell where the nutrient's going to do its work a lot better. In fact, I think Dr. Thomas Levy did a comparison on, they did comparisons on just oral forms of vitamin C versus liposomal, and you get at least 50% more better absorption with the liposomal form. But here's also a neat thing. You would think IV, you would probably get a good amount into your bloodstream. Yes, you get a good amount into your bloodstream, but does the stuff in your bloodstream actually enter the cell? Turns out if you package it into a liposome, those cell membranes fuse and you can get that nutrient into the cell. So it's actually probably a better mechanism for intracellular delivery of a nutrient versus IV.
Because passing through the cell with antioxidants actually oxidizes. So vitamin C is actually spent, if you will,
yes,
entering the cell. But because the liposome is kind of like a Trojan horse, it delivers the vitamin C into the cell completely ready to quench ions and do its job. And the same has to be true of R-ALA, because R-ALA is first and foremost an antioxidant.
Yes.
I'm taking their R-ALA now as because I'm actually noticing change. I've found some research that shows that R-alpha lipoic acid may actually improve insulin sensitivity, as opposed to, I know that a lot of people consider it a glucose disposal agent, but it appears to act like insulin in some cases, but it also appears to improve insulin sensitivity, which is the goal. If you're insulin resistant, you want to do everything you can, change your diet, change how you move, and use supplements that are going to, the end will be improved insulin sensitivity.
100%. I find that alpha lipoic acid is great in the supplemental arsenal, particularly with people with insulin resistant issues. And then you could add on there, a few things like chromium, like like berberine and things of that nature. But alpha lipoic acid is something that not too many people know about. So I'm glad you're mentioning it, Carl.
Yeah, we're bringing it back. We're doing more and more shows about it because there's a lot of new sexy things out there, but there's some things that we've just kind of forgotten about because the crowd marches on that we need to review again. So the book is called Thrive State. You can get it at thrivestatebook.com. You can pre-order it there. It'll actually be available April 6th. You could also go to Dr. Vu's website, kienvuu.com, to learn more about him. Do you see patients outside of your marketplace now with telemedicine being all the rage?
Yeah, I'm licensed in a few states, and so for the states I'm licensed in, I do see some clients via telemedicine.
Do you want to promote that in the states that you're licensed in for the audience? Maybe they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. I am licensed in New York, Massachusetts, Arizona, and California.
Yeah, very good, very good. So again, they can go to your website. Again, I'll give that. It's kienvuu.com. If you want to work with Dr. Vu, you can. Listen, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And thanks to Live On Labs for making it possible to have you as a guest. I know that you're very, very popular. You do a bunch of TED Talks. You have a bunch of TED Talks out there too, right? People can find those.
Yeah, you can find my TED Talk, The Unconventional Prescription, You Are Your Best Medicine, by Googling my name.
There you go. Dr. Vu, thanks so much for being here today.
It is my pleasure. Really, really fun, Carl.
Take care. We'll have you on again. I'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
We're going to take one quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Zach from Pure Nootropics to talk about a new supplement that they're making available to the audience. It's an old supplement, actually. It's PQQ, pyroquinolinol. No. Anyway, it sounds like something like that, but we'll just say PQQ because it's very fascinating. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. As a listener of this show, you know how important your gut is to your overall health. Bioptimizers has a potent product to heal and repair your gut unlike anything else. It's called Leaky Gut Guardian. It's powered by patented IGY Max, an egg-based protein that enhances gut health, reverses antibiotic damage, and strengthens your immune system. Available in 2 delicious powders, vegetarian vanilla and chocolate carnivore. Simply mix it with your favorite beverage. Repair your gut and power up your immune system risk-free and save 10% off. Go to shrnetwork.biz/leaky gut. Don't delay. Fix your gut today. Thrive. Getting a massage post-workout is a proven strategy to facilitate better recovery. Getting to massage therapists can be difficult and expensive, especially in these times. The solution is the Meteor, a heated massage ball from Milestorm. Reduce pain and soreness and expedite recovery with the Meteor's research-backed vibration settings and therapeutic heat. It's convenient for travel and works on any body part. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Meteor and use code SHR15 for 15% off and free shipping if you buy 2 or more. Start recovering better today. Folks, I'm pleased to announce that Pure Nootropics is now carrying the antioxidant alpha lipoic acid in its bioidentical natural form as R-Ala. R-Ala provides protection in many areas and has even been shown to promote weight loss. Check out the interview I did on episode 2608 back in October to learn more. Our friends at Pure Nootropics have been bringing you great products and deals since 2013, and they have another one with R-Ala. Go to shrnetwork.biz/pure and use code SHR30 for a whopping 30% off. Level up. Go Pure.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Welcome back. Well, I thought Chris Zach was going to be with us from Pure Nootropics, but it looks like we got our wires crossed. He was just going to come on the show to tell you that Pure Nootropics now has PQQ, which in its early research and publications, some of them promoted by Life Extension Foundation, saw that peak. Oh, here he is. Hold on.
Oh, hey, Goose, I'm sorry. I got to go, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, I thought we were at noon. I'm sorry.
That's
that
okay.
late?
No, that's okay. You're right on time, actually. Perfect timing.
How are you guys
So
doing?
good. I was actually just vamping and explaining that we're going to talk about PQQ because we now have a special offer for the audience. So I was saying that early on, there was a lot of research put out by the Life Extension Group's Life Extension Foundation about PQQ's ability to increase both mitochondrial biogenesis and size when taken with coenzyme Q10. So why don't we talk about that? What's the good news about PQQ?
PQQ is one of the items that we've launched recently that started doing really well. And part of the thing that people mistook it for a little bit is COVID related stuff. So like you remember when the hydroxychloroquine, well, because PQQ stands for pyrroloquinoline quinone, people were getting it kind of like confused, but it does have it does have some immune function in terms of like rat animal studies. It improves immunity. PQQ is something that exists in foods that we consume naturally. It's just hard to get a adequate dose from food. And so what you said is absolutely true. It combines well with CoQ10. And so Life Extension has done a bunch of studies on it. And what we've seen in human studies is that it reduces markers of oxidative stress and inflammation. So it kind of can work there and basically helps some people with energy. And so they say metabolic function potentially because of the interaction with the mitochondria.
So Elisa found an interesting study that showed that PQQ improves skin hydration and the reduction of small lines and wrinkles in women's skin.
Is that when taken orally or topically? Do you know?
No. I guess taking it orally, I would imagine. It's too expensive to use topically, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a good point because it is, I consider it microdose because the standard dose is 20 milligrams. And so that is an awfully small amount. So like when you're buying capsules from us, we use microcrystalline cellulose because it's a good filler for the PQQ. And, the issue is that most of that capsule is a filler. But, we've had them validated for our blending and it's all good. We have more than 20 mgs per capsule in there.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention about PQQ is that there are some people that are using it as a nootropic now.
Right. So, it may have a neuroprotective or basically because of the inflammation is where I think that comes into play. But what they've shown in animal studies is that it also stimulates nerve growth factor as well. So, it has a whole host of benefits. It's, generally just considered an antioxidant. And when they discovered it, it's so useful. And because it comes from food naturally, is it kind of mistook it for a B vitamin originally. And that's since cleared up. But that just shows how, ubiquitous it is, I guess.
So Pure Nootropics has PQQ. Correct? Mm-hmm. And you have a special available to my audience. It's 20% off during the month of March if they go to shrnetwork.biz/pure and use the code SHR20. What's a bottle cost without a discount? I'm curious. PQQ it's always been a very expensive supplement.
Right. So it's about like $19-20 for a 60 count.
That's cheap.
It's pretty inexpensive in itself. And so we do we sell a good volume of it, which has allowed us to get really good pricing that we can then pass on to our customers. Unlike a lot of other brands out there, is we try and not use these like exorbitant margins. We just need enough to get by and keep running, and we want folks to have a good quality vendor and supplier that they can purchase these products from with quality and, reasonable cost.
Yeah, Pure Nootropics. You don't pay for the fancy. You get the best for less. Go to shrnetwork.biz/pure and shop around, because they have so much good stuff on the website, and it's so much less expensive than anything you're buying now. And it's always going to be the same quality or better, because Chris works hard to source the best. People always said, man, I wish I had an uncle in the supplement business so I could save some money. Well, Chris is your uncle. He's in the supplement business. He's going to give you the special family price. So there you go. Right. Check that out. Thank you very much.
Keep in mind that we always do the money back guarantee as well. So not all supplement companies do that. And the reason that we do that is we want folks to find out what works for them. You and I have talked about this before. Everybody has different biodiversity, different genetics, and whether they express or not. What I take may not work for you, Carl, and what you take may not work for me, but there might be things out there that work for both of us. And our general philosophy is that we want you to find those things, and we try to genuinely offer the highest quality products. So that's going to be plant extracts that are standardized to active ingredients, not just ground up roots and capsules, because we hear a lot of feedback from folks that I've tried XYZ and it didn't do anything. And when we look further into it, they, took a very inferior product compared to like what we're trying to put out there. And so we're trying to approach this industry with integrity, which isn't, something that's synonymous with the supplement industry, right?
Right. Now, and plus, a lot of times supplements look good on paper, but the doses that they used in the studies far outweigh the doses that are being sold. And when you really do the math to take the effective dose, a bottle that's supposed to last you 30 days would last you 7 days. And that's another, when PQQ first came out, Life Extension Foundation, VitaCost, all these companies were selling it in 10 milligram capsules. And the research showed 20 milligrams was the effective dose, which is, right away you were like, oh, I bought a 60 cap. It's only going to last me 30 days because I'm going to have to double up. This is the game that supplement companies play.
Well, part of it is because you have the intellectual property holders. So I believe PQQ was developed by Mitsubishi, and they held the primary patent on it. And I don't know if that's Bio PQQ or another branded ingredient, but originally that ingredient was 5-6 times the cost of going with like a generic version, which is the same thing chemically and all that stuff. But because they're the IP holder, they can charge that much. And that's why originally, 10, 15 years ago, the PQQ products were exorbitantly expensive. But we've found alternatives to the major branded ingredients. So it's still a good quality product because we send it for third-party testing to make sure that it assays correctly. It is what they say it is. They run it through FTIR, HPLC, and they're doing the ICP-MS to do analysis. So we're like running it through the lab test gamut and finding quality products so that we can then provide it to folks at a reasonable price. Because like you said, there exists equivalents out there that are 5-6 times more expensive. And then if they go and they package it, where you need to take 2 caps instead of 1. Yeah. That's a good point that you bring up for sure.
Well, and then the other thing that I want to mention is that a lot of companies don't bother testing their raw materials. I've been fortunate enough to have companies as sponsors that all do that. Most companies will take the COA, the certificate of analysis, from the supplier. Right. Now, the interesting thing about a COA is a COA will be issued and it'll be good for 5 years, let's say. And that assumes that the batch that was tested is the same batch that they're still selling from 5 years later. So the whole idea of using a COA from a source manufacturer is ridiculous. Even the best sauce manufacturers in the world, even Sabinsa, gets it wrong sometimes. So if you're not bringing that stuff into your shop and testing it and going, wait a minute, this isn't any good, and sending it back so that they can send you good stuff, your customers are the ones that are taking it on the short end, because you can't trust the source manufacturers. They don't want to throw raw material away. So if they can sell it to you and you're willing to take their COA because you don't want to spend $1,000, $2,000 testing all the ways you have this batch, then they're happy to sell it to you.
100% right. 100% right. And you said it, big companies are not impervious to making mistakes or sending the wrong product or things like that. And so, like we deal with Sabinsa. Fortunately, we've never had any issues with any of their product.
Well, I use them as an example because they tend to be a super quality supplier. Right. They tend to be. So,
Yeah, I like working with them. We get our black seed extract from them. I don't know if you've looked into black seed oil.
No.
Oh, Carl, that's one that we're gonna have to talk about.
Okay. Well, let's do that on the next show. Then send me some literature so I can learn about it, and then let's do that on the next show.
I will. You're gonna see that's another really versatile supplement, and I think I'll have to send you some to try prior.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll like it a lot. I have a lot of family members that found out about it like kind of off the cuff, and they're like, hey, do you happen to sell this? And I'm like, I do. And I sell a really good quality one because, again, we're using the Sabinsa Nigellin black seed extract.
Right.
It is really good quality because it's a standardized extract, standardized to the active ingredient that's used in the studies. And that's the way that we want to approach things, is we want to have supplements that work for you. And if they don't, get a refund and try something else if you're inclined to, but we want to be here to help you find supplements that can improve your quality of life, really.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll be interested in learning more about that. Again, you can get PQQ at Pure Nootropics and save 20% off during the month of March if you go to shrnetwork.biz/pure and use code SHR20. PQQ is Elise has been taking PQQ forever. She loves it.
Okay.
So
it's kind of like one of those ones that's subtle too, right? You don't really, a lot
of the best supplements, you don't notice anything,
right?
But after years, you notice something.
Yeah.
It's like you go to the gym every day. You don't necessarily notice a lot, but then when you hit 60, it's like, wow, man, I'm in so much better shape than my friends. It must be because I go to the gym every day. So
right.
you gotta trust what you're taking is legit. You got to trust the science behind it, and then you got to take it and forget about it. That's it. That's really it. All right, Chris, thanks for being here. Thanks for making it today.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me as always, Carl. You have a good day, and
black seed extract is the next discussion. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you some too, like today. Should I send some to Dan as well?
Yeah, probably so. Okay. Yeah, so he can talk about it. Yeah, good deal. All right, thanks.
The better. I love it.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, Carl. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, that's it for today. I want to thank Ryan for putting up this comment. Best podcast on YouTube. Thank you for saying that. Certainly not the most popular, but then maybe popularity in this day and age isn't an indicator of quality because there's a lot of stupid people out there. All right, look, that's it for today. We have great shows the rest of the week. Anthony Roberts is going to be on Friday to talk about the evolution of steroid laws. It's going to be very, very fascinating. But that's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for watching and listening today. And please share the show. Please share the show. I always ask you, please share the show. All right, we'll see you later.